My question actually goes back to what Gary was saying earlier about how we're in a time when things need to change because chemicals like this can't keep on being developed. My question is, do you think that in other words, the indictment, if let's say Warren Anderson comes out of his hole and he goes to India and gets indicted, are these companies going to stop doing what they're doing because one man, Warren Anderson, gets arrested? It's finally indicted. And before I have you answer that, the reason I say that is because if you think about these corporations, they feel like they're building something for the world or our country because we're dependent on it. And when you think about it, it's very similar to drug cartels. Pablo Escobar gets put to jail, yet they keep coming back and they're not leaving. So my question is, should we be more focused? While I think that a figurehead at the head of Union Carbide, Warren Anderson, should be responsible and should have taken responsibility a long time ago. Yeah, going to India probably was a nice thing for him to have done, go and show his thing. And he gets arrested and he gets freaked out and he leaves. And he may not even known during the time that he was signing papers that what was happening would eventually led to the killing of all these people. Not to say that he's not responsible and he should have started from the beginning. My focus is, my question is, should we now be focused more on not necessarily the bringing down of these corporations, because they're going to resist. They're going to resist to the end of us. If we try to bring them down, they'll come back out in force. Shouldn't we start focusing more on the public and getting them more focused on the alternatives of different types of chemicals? Because once our demand becomes, for example, organic foods, more people want organic food because they're learning more about the chemicals that are in the foods. So more organic foods are becoming cars, for example, that are being more, these companies will eventually start to think, well, shit, you know what, maybe we should start changing. That's my question, is do you think that if we were to bring Warren Anderson to justice, that would change things?
Well, one, I want to just say something that I want Gary, I'm sure he's got something. But I know that there's a real favorite poster that I've seen. It was a picture of this woman in Bhopal, and it's a demonstration, and it's a picture of Warren Anderson. She's holding this huge picture of Warren Anderson, and it says, you want Osama bin Laden, I want Warren Anderson. And I think for this issue, it is their call. So I totally understand, because what did we do? We bombed Afghanistan and then go to Iraq because of what we think that they, of what happened with 9/11, and so I think there's something to be said about simple justice. I think sometimes that can send very powerful message. And if not, sometimes maybe if not for them or setting a precedent or whatever, but to the people that are doing, because they've been doing this in India for 19 years. Those people, I mean, that's what they're living and breathing on, is some justice. But I understand, and probably Gary can address it a lot more than I can.
Well, it's both, right? I mean, we need to do all these things. So there needs to be a powerful message about you need to be held accountable if you kill somebody, and that's a really important thing, even if it's symbolic at this point. And we need to create the demand for safer products. And so there's a whole set of campaigns that are going on around this country now and around the world that are exposing the dangerous chemicals that are in certain products and then pushing the industry to offer safer ones. So there's a Safe Cosmetics campaign that's documenting all the poisonous chemicals that are putting on our bodies, and now pushing all these companies to offer safer products. The thing I run, Healthcare Without Harm, is pushing the whole healthcare sector to move away from exposing people to dangerous chemicals in hospitals, of all things, and moving to safer products. Huge organic campaigns, right? There's a clean car campaign, there's a hybrid campaign, there's campaigns around healthy building materials, there's campaigns to force the electronics companies to take back their toxic, high-tech crap. So there's all these things that are happening, and they're all needed. And there needs to be campaigns that go to the financial sector and say, you shouldn't be investing in the companies that are poisoning the planet, because all that is about externalizing the environmental and social costs of doing dirty business. Oil companies and chemical companies. And if you force them to internalize those costs, which includes liability, which includes criminal penalties, that will have a very powerful impact. Right now, we're all absorbing the cost of their business. So if I go see my mother dying from cancer in the hospital, and it's a very private tragedy, but it's a public tragedy, really. It's a public tragedy. The kids that have learning disabilities, it's a public tragedy. But for every family, it's experienced as a private tragedy. And we need to educate people that this is a public tragedy about the kind of violence that's happening against us on the planet. It'd be interesting to hear what David has to say from Amnesty. I mean, why get involved in this Bhopal thing? It's an old story, 20 years ago, but now Amnesty International has put a huge amount of weight into this struggle. Why?
Yeah, well, this is a big move for Amnesty in the last few years when they started moving into this whole corporate accountability. And now they're moving into also other areas of human rights, and it's creating a lot of friction within Amnesty about whether it's the right direction to go or not, but there's certainly a lot of interest in it. And I think people, the power of Amnesty is that it brings already, millions of members and people who are interested in working at Amnesty around the world quite quickly into focusing on these kind of issues. I mean, Bhopal has been one of the issues, and they have several other issues around the world they're working on as well. They have to pick out certain key subjects, certain key major things that have happened and work on them, and they're doing that. And I think it's it's bringing environmental, like you're saying, Gary, the damage that happens to the environment, that human beings have a right to live in a healthy environment. This is a fundamental human right. It's not simply about torture anymore. It's also about having a place to live, having kids who can grow up healthy without toxins in their bodies, having environments around the world that many, especially indigenous and poor people, get subjected to a lot of discrimination in terms of their environments being stolen from them completely or being poisoned by corporations. So I think Amnesty embracing a clean environment and a safe environment for human beings to live in as basically fundamental human rights is a very positive step forward. And Bhopal is a very significant issue that Amnesty is working on.
We have time for one more short question. We gotta wrap up.
About two, yeah. It's a bit harsh.
All right.
Cold turkey.
I just wanted to say a quick thing about that issue is that I think that it's really important to